Hey everyone, in this tutorial today I'm going to show you how to set up a simple online form on your website. It will be PHP based, so you do need to have PHP running on your server. And in this tutorial I'll be doing it locally, so I'll be using a web server called XAMPP, which is a local web server you can download, and all you need to do is Google XAMPP and install it. And once you have installed it, just start your Apache and MySQL. Actually, you don't even need MySQL at this point because we're not going to be using any sort of database. And I'm also using Sublime Text as my code editor, but you can use anything you want, even Notepad if you really want to. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is go into my C folder and go into my XAMPP folder and to my htdocs, which is the, I guess, the public HTML folder of the server. And let's just create a new folder called form. And then let's go into Sublime Text and we will open that specific folder, so htdocs form, so then we can start working within that folder. Inside there we want to create an index.php file, and we also want to create a form.php file. So index.php will display the form, and form.php will be the logic which grabs all the data from the form and then sends it on to whoever it's supposed to be sent to. So we'll get out of form.php right now. Now we'll set up a basic HTML document and we'll call it my form. Now in this form we want to know the name of the person, their email, their phone number, and maybe a bit of text that they can type as an inquiry. So if we do input type equals text, and the name will be name, and then we copy that and we'll make it name equals email and name equals phone, and then we want to do a text area which is text area, and we'll give that a name of inquiry. Then we want to do a button, so we'll do button type equals submit form. So that's the basics of the HTML. So if we go to localhost /form, you'll see a really basic form which doesn't look too good. So we kind of need to style this to make it look a bit better. The best thing you could probably do is use some sort of CSS framework which will simplify things for you. So you can go, let's in this instance get Bootstrap. So if we go to Google, type in Bootstrap, we want to get the latest Bootstrap, which is Bootstrap 4. So if we click on getbootstrap.com, Bootstrap 4 should be here, and we just need to download it. You can use a CDN, like an online host, to host your Bootstrap, but I always like to put it in my project so that it loads the quickest when people visit the website. So now Bootstrap is installed, or downloaded, my bad. We just need to then bring it into our project. So if we go into our form folder and we just drag Bootstrap into there, what we can do is just rename Bootstrap to the folder just to Bootstrap as opposed to Bootstrap-4.1.1. And as you can see in here, we have quite a few things in here. So really all we're going to need is the bootstrap.css. So if we go to distribution, copy these folders. So go into dist, copy them, paste them into your folder, and delete the Bootstrap file. You don't need the Bootstrap folder anymore. Okay, so now in our project what we want to do is we want to go up into our head and type in link href bootstrap, and then no, we don't even need Bootstrap, we just want to do css bootstrap.min.css, and then rel equals style sheet, so it knows that it actually is a style sheet. So if we refresh our page now, you should notice things will look slightly different. They still don't look good, but they look different. So let's utilize a bit of Bootstrap now. So we want to create a container. So div class equals container, and then close the container. and just indent things to make them a bit nicer. And then you'll notice things are a bit better here. But let's now give the form a bit of classes. So we'll do form control, class equals form control for each input and even the text area. And then if we refresh that, you'll notice they'll all go on their own line. So we do need to wrap the form in a form tag. And then we might want to give each form or each input a placeholder. So this, your name, okay, so your name will be the placeholder on the name input. Placeholder for email will be your email, and so forth. So we'll just copy and paste that into there. Your phone, and then maybe how can we help you? Now if you refresh that, you'll notice that the placeholders will come up there. We'll make the button a block so that it's the full width, and we'll make it a success button so that it is green with the Bootstrap styling. And then let's just give each input a bit of a margin underneath it, so margin bottom 2, and also underneath the text area. So there's a bit of a margin there. Because this is an email field, you can change this to type equals email. And the reason is that you can take advantage of the inbuilt browser validation, which basically will make sure that you can't submit anything without it being an email address, as you can see. The last thing we'll do is give the container a padding top of 5, just to make it a bit easier to see. And then maybe inside this form we want to do an H3, please send an inquiry. And just to make that look better, we'll just do class equals MB4. Okay, so that's about it. Maybe if we make the form a bit slightly smaller, we'll do div class equals row. So wrap it in a row. And then we will also do div class equals col lg6, so we'll make it 6 columns wide, and then we'll give it an offset of 3 so that it centers it completely in the middle. So there we go. Please send an inquiry. Your name, your email, your phone, how can we help you? You can obviously put labels on top of these forms or form inputs, but it does look quite good with just the placeholders. So now that we have the basics set up for this form, we need to be able to allow someone to fill it out, and then when they hit the submit form button, it actually processes and sends to our email. You might even want to send an email to that particular person confirming that you received their email as well. So the possibilities are endless. So now that we've set this up, if we type in a detail, so I'm going to type in Sean at mrdigital.com.au, put any phone number then in there and do test, and we do submit form, you'll notice that nothing happens. It pretty much just goes into the URL of the page. We need to go back here and we need to give the form an action. So we're going to do form action equals form.php. So it's basically saying when you hit the submit button, send it to form.php. And then let form.php do what it needs to do to process the email. And then we also want to do method equals post. So we're telling it that it needs to post the data to form.php. So what we can do now is if we save this and we go back into our page and refresh it, let's type in some more details. It will actually post it to form.php when you click on submit now. But obviously we haven't done anything in form.php to process it, so it's not going to do anything. You're just going to see a blank screen. So let's now go into form.php, and now we want to receive that data that's been posted. So let's open up our PHP tags, and what we'll do is we'll do name equals $_post, which is the post variable. So all the data that's posted comes in the post variable, and then we grab it from that post variable. And remember when we named our inputs, we called it name. So let's just grab name. And then now that we've got name from our posted data, and we've also put it into a new variable called name, let's echo it out. Okay, so if we refresh now and we continue because it needs to repost the data, you'll notice that the name is Sean that's been posted. So let's continue to do it with the other things. Email, phone, and inquiry. So let's do email equals post email. And then we can actually just make it easier and copy all of them. And phone, and then inquiry. So the basics, if you wanted to see it, have it just say, oh, thank you, Sean, we have received your information, you could just basically go echo thank you, and then dot name dot, open up the tags, the inverted commas again, we have received your inquiry. So we put these dots here so that we can mix in a variable with the actual text. So if we go back to our page and submit it, you'll notice that, thank you, Sean, we've received your inquiry. It's not spaced out properly, so we need to make sure we put space here and a space here and refresh it. But yeah, we don't want to do that because it doesn't really do anything. It just says that, but it doesn't do anything. So we need to make sure that if someone submits a form, that it validates the form and it doesn't let them submit unless they've filled out the complete form. There are a couple of ways to do this. To keep it really simple, all I'm going to do is use the browser-based validation in any modern browser. To do that, you just need to add required to each input. So if it is required, you just need to put required inside the tag. And then if you go back to the form and you try and submit it, it will actually ask you to fill out all this stuff first. So my name's Sean, yes. Oh, it needs my email, okay. It needs my phone, and it needs an inquiry. So now that it's all filled out, it will send. So that's what you call front-end validation. That's the browser checking that. But there are ways for people to get around that, especially people who are trying to take advantage of your website or hack your website. They try a lot of things to get around browser-based validation, and by simply disabling JavaScript most of the time they can get around it. So what you need to do is you also need to do web server-based validation. So there's kind of two validations that happen. So in this tutorial, I will show you how to do it on the website as well. So now that the data is sent through this form, and the form.php is going to receive it, it then assigns all the variables. But before that, what we want to do is we want to make sure that those variables are set. And if they're not, to send the user back to the page to complete it. So in order to check if the name has been entered on the form, we need to do an if statement. If empty post name. So basically, if the post of name is empty, then send the user back to index.php with the question mark, error equals name. So it actually adds that to the URL. And then we'll do the same thing for email. If the email is empty, send it back with an error of email. If the phone is empty, and if the inquiry is empty as well. Okay, so let's test that out. I'm going to remove the required from the browser-based validation, and I'm going to go back onto the page, and we're going to fill out, we're just going to hit submit form. You'll notice that error inquiry comes up, okay? And then error phone will come up, and then error email should come up. And then, obviously, if we don't fill out your name, name will come up. So just to reiterate, this is a very, very basic way to do things. Obviously, there are JavaScript or jQuery plugins that we can use to do validation on the browser side, and then we can use PHP frameworks like Laravel and stuff like that to provide better types of web server-based validation. But as I said, this is a very basic way to do things, and hopefully this will help you get more experience so that you can learn other ways to do things. But this is the simplest way to do it. So now that we have all of our validation set up, we want to then send this form to an email address. Now you could do it using vanilla PHP, but why would you? Why would you want to reinvent the wheel? There's already a great library out there called PHP Mailer. So I'll show you. If we go onto Google and we look for PHP Mailer, you'll go to the GitHub page and it will basically explain to you how to set it up. And the best way to set it up is by using a thing called Composer. Now, Composer is just a really cool way or really easy way to include PHP libraries in your project. So you do need to install Composer on your computer. So let's do that now. You can go to getcomposer.org and then just click on download. And in my case, I'm using Windows. So we just download and then run the composer setup.exe. Now, once it's installed, or once it's downloaded, we install it. And just run the installer and just wait for that to install. Done. Now Composer is installed on our computer, and we can find out if it is installed by going into cmd.exe, so command prompt, and typing in Composer. And you'll notice we get all this stuff now. So if Composer wasn't installed, then you probably wouldn't see anything, or you'll see some sort of error. So now Composer is installed on our computer. We want to go into command prompt again and go to our XAMPP folder, so CD, which takes us to our C drive. We can see the folders that are in our C drive, and then we just go to CD XAMPP, and then CD htdocs, and then CD form. And that's our folder where our project is. And then what we want to do is we want to go back to that GitHub page and copy this Composer require PHP Mailer, right click, paste, and then enter. And that is going to download and install Composer through, PHP Mailer through Composer. So depending on your internet connection, it can take a while, so we just need to let this run. Okay, PHP Mailer is now installed via Composer, so we can get out of the command prompt now. And if we go back to our project folder, you'll notice that we have a new folder called Vendor. Now, Vendor basically stores all the libraries we download through Composer, and then we can easily refer to all of those libraries by doing one small PHP include on our project. So if we go back into our form.php, what we want to do is include, and we want to do vendor autoload.php, and we'll just put a / there. So if we go back and we refresh, let's just try and fill out the form again. No, there's no error, so everything's working fine. So now that we've loaded PHP Mailer into our project, if we go back to GitHub and we scroll further down, you'll notice a few things we need to do to make PHP Mailer run. As you can see, it's actually require vendor autoload. So we'll just go require. And then there's also a couple of, we need to add use PHP Mailer, and these two things need to be done. We'll add them right to the top of the PHP file. Okay, so I'm just going to note all this. So this is a validation. This is include autoload. Okay, these are the variables. Okay, so now PHP Mailer is definitely in our project. Now what we can do is we can just copy their example. So if we just copy this whole example, and we can edit it to do what we want it to do. Oops, that didn't copy. Okay, great. Send email. Okay, so just to run you through this, when people fill out the form on the index.php page, it posts the data to our form.php page, and it goes through a validation. It checks that every single field is filled out, and if it is filled out, it then requires our auto-load file, which includes PHP Mailer. It then also assigns the variables that we set or sent through the form to their own local variables. And then it runs PHP Mailer. So with PHP Mailer, we want to send an email to ourselves with the information that the person has filled out on the form. So we do need to fill out some of these SMTP details. There are a few things, few services we can use for SMTP. I'm going to be using SendGrid in this case. So in this case, the host is smtp.sendgrid.net. The username is my username, and the password is my password. And then TLS is correct, and port is definitely 587. So we want to set the from address. So the person when you send the email, who you want the email to be coming from. So I'm just going to make it no reply at mrdigital.com.au. Just be careful when you use the email address of the person that's filled out the form, because some providers like Gmail and some others, they tend to look at those types of emails as spoofing. So you're actually pretending to be the person, and it can sometimes get blocked. So I typically use no reply at my web address so that the deliverability is pretty high. And then we can just call it Mr. Digital. That's my name. Now, we want to add a recipient. So the recipient will be me. So the administrator of the website, Sean at Mr. Digital. And you don't actually have to put the name of the recipient, so that's fine. Now you can do a reply to, so change the email so that if they reply, they have to reply to a certain email. I'm just going to remove that. And you can also do CC and BCC. I'm going to remove that as well. You have the ability to add attachments, but I'm not going to show you that in this instance because our form does not have any uploads. And with content, this is the actual content of the email that gets sent. So let's muck around with this a tiny bit. We want an email to go to the administrator of the website saying, hi, you've received an inquiry from name. This is their email, this is their phone, and this is their inquiry. So to do that, the best thing to do would be to create a new variable called content and just equal it to nothing. And then actually what you could do is do content and put it in the inverted commas, the double inverted commas. And then what we can do is just put all the variables in one thing. So we can do dear website administrator, and I'm going to include the actual variable within the inverted commas. That's how PHP works. You can put the variable like this. Name has inquired through the website. Their phone number is phone, and their email is email. Now if we do a break, which is BR, and then we'll do the inquiry is, and then do another break so it's underneath it, and then we just do inquiry. So that's the content. So what we can do is we can just put the mail body now equals the content, which is this, and the alternative body, which is for plain text emails, we'll do strip tags content. So it actually takes out any of the HTML inside of this content and displays the text only. And then with the subject, we'll just do website inquiry from space $name. So basically web inquiry from whoever is filling out the form. And then that's it. That should work. So if we go to the form now and fill it out, I'll just fill out my details. We'll do a different email here. Do a phone number and then just type test and hit submit form. It should spin around at the top here, so you'll know something's happening. And then you'll get all this gibberish, which is a debug message from PHP Mailer. And as you can see, it authenticated successfully, and it looks like it actually worked. So if I check my email now, what you'll notice is it came through. Web inquiry from Sean. Dear website administrator, Sean has inquired through the website, phone number, and their email is blah blah. The inquiry is test. That's it. That's all you need to do to make it work. So, as you can see, this isn't the ideal response you want a customer to get. So what you could do is you could, at the end, when it completes, where it says message has been sent, what you can do is change this and redirect them to another page. So location thanks.php, and that will and we'll also do question mark name equals and then we'll do dot name. So it's basically going to add the name at the end, so then we can use that within the thanks page. Okay, we can also turn off debugging so that debug message doesn't come up. And let's create the thanks page now. So form, new file, thanks.php. We'll do a basic HTML document and we'll do thank you. And we'll also do a container, a Bootstrap container. And we'll do a margin at the top. And we'll do an H1, thank you. And then we'll put in PHP tags echo name. Now, we haven't set this variable yet, so we need to then go to the top of the page, open up our PHP tags, and do name equals get name. So get is a get request. There are two different types of requests. You have a post request and a get request. Post request is when you post it through a form, and a get request is basically when you go to a page and it has the question mark and the variable at the end of the URL. Okay, so we have that now. We have sent your details to our admin and we'll be in touch soon. So that's about it. So now let's go to our main form again and we'll fill it out. Sean at Mr. Digital, whatever the phone number is, test, and hit submit form. And once it actually sends the form, it's going to take the person to another page called thank you, Sean. We've sent your details to the admin and we'll be in touch soon. And I have also received the email on my end. The one thing I did wrong was I did a container here and we didn't include Bootstrap. So to include Bootstrap, you just need to go there and copy it from and add it in the style sheet. And as you can see now, that's there. So that wraps up the tutorial. So what I've shown you today to do is create a basic PHP form running on a local web server using Composer and PHP Mailer. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please let me know, and good luck. Thank you.